Got a pretty short video. Going to show you a potential way to resolve a check engine light for a mass airflow sensor. Let's get into it.
What was the last one? D-Tron did this.
I like that one.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of D-Tron Does It. Of course, I am D-Tron, and I does stuff. And this week, I am going to be trying to resolve a check engine light that I have on in the car for a mass airflow sensor code using some mass airflow sensor cleaner. Need an OBD2 scanner. You probably need like a screwdriver so we can actually get the mass airflow sensor out. First, we're going to head inside, scan the car, make sure that the proper code is popping up. That way we know that's the area that we want to focus on. If you already know you have a mass airflow sensor problem, you can go ahead and skip ahead to the part where we start to remove it. Let's go. Want to head to the internet, figure out what that code is, or if you've already stopped by a mechanic, they may have already told you that it's a mass airflow sensor. Or if you've got a better scanner than the one that I have, it should probably tell you what that code comes back to. Once you figured out that part, next we need to figure out how to get the mass airflow sensor out from underneath the hood. So that's the next step that we're going to go into, is removing the mass airflow sensor. All right, let's go ahead and get the hood popped. Now that we got the hood popped, I'm going to show you guys exactly where you can find your mass airflow sensor. On this 2013 Nissan Murano, your mass airflow sensor is going to be located here. On top of the air box, you have where your mass airflow sensor is housed. This screw here, or this bolt, is a 7mm, so you can use a 7mm socket. There's also an insert for a Phillips screwdriver on the back of it. I'm actually using my 7mm wrench. Try to get it off because there's not a whole lot of space to operate with it here. Get your wrench on there. Go to your left. Gonna go ahead and loosen that up. Make sure that you do not lose this screw down in your engine bay. It may be very difficult to retrieve. So here is what I'm referencing. That sensor, you've got a screw on the top, and then just behind here is another screw. And that one will loosen up and take out as well. And then the mass airflow sensor can just lift right out. So we got that removed. All right, so we got that second screw out of there. Now we should be able to completely remove our mass airflow sensor. You can see. And we can actually disconnect this mass airflow sensor right up here at the top where there's clamps. All right. And now that we got that out, we can take it inside and get it all cleaned. So I got some scrap cardboard here, the Gumout mass airflow sensor cleaner. That is what it looks like here. Some people will try to use brake cleaner or other cleaners for the engine, maybe throttle body cleaners. You want to use mass airflow sensor cleaner specifically because it is intended to not ruin plastic parts. If you spray harsh chemicals on these plastic pieces, you could potentially damage them. So you want to try to use stuff specifically intended for mass airflow cleaning. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to try to spray from 8 to 10 inches away inside of the mass airflow sensor opening, all around, cleaning all of this out, and then we're going to set it and let it dry before we put it back into our vehicle. So let's check our spray. All right. So now that we got that sprayed out, I'm actually going to spray our connectors as well. That way, inside, if there's any debris trapped inside the connector, we can also ensure that that gets cleaned out. Now we're just going to wait for these to get dry, and then we're going to replace the mass airflow sensor and plug it back in. We'll clear the code, and then we'll drive it to see if that code comes back on. Just as a quick note, this area, the mass airflow sensor, the actual sensor area, is very sensitive. Do not come in contact with the actual straw. Don't touch the straw to it. Try not to put your hands in that area. You want to avoid touching that particular space with anything other than just the spray from the cleaner, because it is sensitive. You don't want to break it or damage it, because it can have a pretty big impact on how well your vehicle runs, how well it idles, and ultimately how much air is being fed into the engine. All right, so our mass airflow sensor is now clean. So we're gonna put it back on that connector there and place it back into its housing. Now it does only go in one way. It will slide in both ways, but it properly fits in one way. So you want to make sure that the fit is right when you put it back in. If it doesn't feel right, don't force it. Just flip it around and see if that side fits better. One of the things you can do to ensure you put this in the right way is check out where your clamp is located. So when you put it back in, if you put the clamp back in the same way you took it out, you should be all good. Now we're going to reinstall the bolts that were holding that in. Since this is a tight space and I don't want to drop this, I'm going to go ahead and use my hands without my gloves. But ideally, when you're working with the chemicals, you want to make sure that you are using your gloves. All right, guys, that's pretty easy. If you have all the supplies you need, your mass airflow sensor, cleaner, some spare cardboard, your socket set, you could probably be done with this job in 10 minutes and potentially solve a check engine light issue that you have. So we're gonna go inside, reset the code, and then see if the mass airflow sensor kicks the light back on. So this is not a for sure fix. If you have a mass airflow sensor problem, you may need to replace your mass airflow sensor, but cleaning your sensor first will give you an opportunity to save a little bit of money and time. All right, so I cleared the P0101 code that was there. There is still a permanent code on for the P0101, but the active code has gone away. So now I'm going to drive this for a couple of days, allow the engine to work the way that it's supposed to, and then see if this does the trick. Now, if it was just that the mass airflow sensor needed cleaning, then I probably won't have a check engine light come back on. If it is something more invasive, like needing to replace the mass airflow sensor completely, or some other thing that's triggering this code, then the check engine light will likely come back on, and that'll be the car's way of telling me that we got to do something else to figure out the problem. Hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully it was concise. I've gotten some feedback about not being concise for you guys. As always, like, share, subscribe, hit that notifications button, get some alerts, find out when I'm dropping new videos. And if you decide not to like, share, or subscribe, you know what? I won't even be mad at you. Till next time, guys. Peace.